Big Zay.
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, you're on a winner, buddy. That's 4 in a row for the Bears. It wasn't the greatest showing that we've ever seen, but it was a pretty significant victory, keeping it going, coming home and winning. And the defense played great. The run defense was excellent. The run offense was excellent. Other than that trivial little matter of the passing game, things look pretty good.
Yeah, they looked like they were absolutely going to run away with that game yesterday, right? But it's 20-0 there in the second quarter, and the Saints are led by Spencer Rattler, who's I think he's 1-12 as a starter now. Got a little bit close there midway through the third quarter, but then they took control again, and the takeaway binge they're on has just been unbelievable. They're only the fourth team in the last decade, actually it's even more than 10 years, to have 15 takeaways in a 4-game span. It hasn't been done in these parts in a mighty, mighty long time. I think since 2004, and around the league in general, this is the kind of thing that just doesn't occur very often.
What do you think is more likely? The Bears will continue to run the ball as well as they have the last 2 weeks, or they'll continue to get takeaways at a pretty high rate?
Well, they certainly want to do both. If you're not going to average more than 3-4 takeaways a game, if you know why they say they come in bunches, guys, because it's not sustainable. Okay. The history tells us that it's just not something they're going to be able to maintain, and that's all right. If they're in position, maybe they don't come 1 week, but you're in position the next week, and they start to come again. And I think, Dennis Allen has preached it, right? Every defensive coach they've ever had has preached it, and it's it's about preparation. It's about reading the keys. It's about maybe picking up on some small clues that can tip you off in terms of routes that you see, or understanding what the opposing offense likes to do in certain situations. It's third and 6 to 10 yards, and they're on this hash mark. Oh, I remember. We talked about them maybe doing this. So. Running the ball, yeah, I think that's trending in the right direction. I would think they'll be able to have a little more consistent success running the ball than with the takeaway train, just because, like I said, I mean, it's unprecedented run that they're on here.
We all understand what sports gambling's about and how Vegas wants to get people to bet one side or the other, or even things out, and that's how you make money. But 6.5-point dogs going into Baltimore, I'm not saying it's wrong, but the Bears are on a 4-game roll, and they're facing a team that I think has lost 4 in a row. They're 1-5 on the year.
Yeah, big number with the Bears going on the road there. Baltimore's getting healthier, or that's what was reported this past week anyway, coming out of a bye with Lamar Jackson, Roquan Smith. I don't know if there's a few others potentially returning. I mean, injuries have ravaged that roster, and the Ravens were a popular pick to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year, maybe win the Super Bowl. So I think when you consider those expectations, when you understand that while that AFC North is still, you can make a race there, it's almost must win for a pretty good stretch now for Baltimore's
right.
got to get back to 500.
Right.
And so, the Bears, pair of 1-point wins, a win yesterday over a New Orleans team that it was 1-5 despite a positive turnover margin coming into the game, and you saw why the Saints are 1-5 yesterday. I mean, that's an organization in transition with an aging roster, a boatload of cap issues that are things that'll still probably handicap them again next year when the Bears play the Saints again.
Brad, we know Ben Johnson has pretty high standards for his offense and certainly the quarterback position. How much do you think that Caleb Williams is testing his patience on days like yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to get into there. That you got the missed passes, right? The inaccuracy. I mean, his completion percentage on the season now is under 62%. It's lower than where it was a year ago. I mean, he's completing passes at the same rate Justin Fields did when he was the Bears quarterback. And then you compound that with these issues at the line of scrimmage where they had a week after having 0 false starts, they had 5 yesterday, guys. And not each one of those is necessarily on the guy who gets the flag. And not each one of those is necessarily on Caleb Williams, but Caleb's involved in that with the cadence and what they want to do pre-snap. And then you throw in center quarterback exchanges, which have been an issue for a while now. Remember, we saw the one in Vegas where the ball ended up it was like 20, 25 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's not all on Caleb. That's not all on Drew Dahlman. So there's plenty to work through, room for improvement. You know, we've seen growth from him this season. You looked at it last week and you just looked at the numbers and you said, my goodness, he's got a chance. He was through the Washington game. He was on pace for 4,009 yards, which is a little bit easier to get to in a 17-game season, but his ability to get there was going to hinge probably on health, right? And I would still say that that's the case. If he stays healthy for all 17 games, which he did a year ago, and I think only 5 other quarterbacks in the league did it, but maybe he gets to 4,000 and the Bears join the 1980s and 1990s in terms of passing offenses with their first 4,000-yard passer. But they've got to get better because they've got the skill position talent. The protection is better. People feel the coaching is top tier now. Well, what's the element that's not there right now? It's the quarterback play.
Speaking of health, very curious if you saw Tyreek Stevenson or Cole Kmet leaving, how serious those injuries are. We'll probably learn something about that today. I want to get your take on Austin Booker. He's got a one more week. They got to activate him or they're not going to be able to activate him. That's my understanding anyway. Where are they at with guys like Cairo Santos and especially maybe Grady Jarrett? You're limited to how many guys you can put on IR and bring back, right? Have they used too many of those? Is that why they don't?
They've used 3. You're
okay.
allowed 8.
Oh, you're allowed 8. Okay.
And there's a lot of names to get through here. Let me see if I keep this straight.
Yep.
The first point I'd make is sometimes people say, well, hey, why wasn't this guy put on IR? Well, if an injury is long-term, the guy's going to land on IR. If it's shorter term and you've got a body there or bodies where you feel like you've got it covered without making a roster move, you just let it ride. You don't need to put the guy on IR and then put him in a situation where he can't practice for 4 weeks, right? Forget playing in a game. He can't practice either. So if it's a shorter term injury like with Grady Jarrett, maybe it's 4 weeks or something. Well, you don't put him on IR. Then whenever he can practice, he's available. He doesn't have to miss the minimum 4 weeks before you start a window to return. So I think that's why you avoid IR in certain instances where people say, well, geez, he's been out this long. Why wasn't he put on IR? There's a nuance to it. Trying to go through these injuries. Cole Kmet, I didn't see him after the game. I know this. He had an ankle injury that looked like it could be problematic during training camp. It was seen in a walking boot afterward. He missed 1 day of practice. He's appeared in 90 consecutive games. He hasn't missed a game in his NFL career. So if it's possible, I think you'll see Cole out there on Sunday at Baltimore. I also did not see Tyreek Stevenson. That, boy, you talk about going down 2 cornerbacks, and that's a challenge for any defense. Really 3 of probably the top 4 when you realize Smitty went out before the season started as well. That would challenge their depth there, potentially force them to consider Kyler Gordon on the outside or starting Nick McLeod, who does have some experience starting on the outside. Grady Jarrett didn't do anything for 3 weeks, was limited in practice Friday. Some folks were surprised he didn't play in the game. Like, you don't go from missing 3 weeks and 1 limited practice, even if you're a 10-year vet, to playing. He's still hobbled a little bit. Like, you can notice there's an issue with his right knee. I believe that he had a procedure done on the knee. So we'll see what his practice situation's like this week as they try to get him back. He's had a ton of durability throughout his career. In terms of Cairo, we'll see. Maybe they give that a shot this week. With Jake Moody on the practice squad, you get 3 elevations with a player from the practice squad to the game day roster. They've used 2 for Moody, so they could potentially go that route one more time at Baltimore if necessary. Did I miss anyone?
No, I don't think so. Let's go back to Jarrett, Brad.
Yeah.
Had a procedure done. So we're talking about a 32-year-old.
That's my belief.
Excuse me?
That's my belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
32-year-old defensive tackle signed for $43.5 million, 28.5 guaranteed, hasn't played in 3 weeks. I understand the injured reserve thing is something we can quibble about, but if this is the same knee that you believe that he had a procedure done on and that he was injured in Atlanta, why is this not a bigger deal? Because this is a guy that came here. He's a captain. He's a center of a defense that struggled up until 2 weeks ago to stop the run, and he's not been anywhere to be found. He's got 1 tackle this year.
Well, he got hurt in week 1. The injury happened in week 1 in the opener, and then he tried to play through it, and I think they realized that, well, he needs some rest. We need to take a look at this thing. And so that's why when he was out there, you didn't see the Grady Jarrett you were hoping to, because he hasn't been at full strength. But like you talk about a position, they've got ample number of guys. It's on the defensive line. I did forget Booker, Mully.
Yes.
Booker, I fully expect him to be added to the 53-man roster before Sunday. It's possible they wait until Saturday afternoon to make that transaction, but I think Booker's back. One guy you've seen more from this week, and I wrote about it a little bit this morning, was Dominique Robinson. He had a season high, I think it was 31 snaps in the ball game, and he's had some big plays with limited playing time this season. So they've got a number of guys on that defensive line, and I'll be curious to see how they create a roster spot for Booker, but fully expect him to be up. And one of the reasons they're able to kind of slow play it with him is because they feel like Robinson has kind of come on and responded to the new coaching staff.
Is Jarrett expected to play in Baltimore?
Dave, I couldn't even venture a guess after a limited practice on Friday. Let's see where he is on the injury report Wednesday, Thursday, and go from there.
I mean, we're all over Montez Sweat for not making his money and Dio Dangbo for not earning his.
I'm telling you, the guy's hobbled. I see he's not walking normally. So,
right.
Yeah,
but if he had a surgical procedure done, though, that's a big deal for a 32-year-old defensive tackle.
I'm not saying it's a minor deal.
On a 3-year deal, yeah.
I'm not saying it's a minor deal, but I don't think you can say the guy can't play when we really haven't seen him healthy.
Right, fair enough.
The opener, and you get on Montez Sweat because he's at the top of the pay range for that position, and the production over an extended period of time hasn't been commensurate to the pay level. Jarrett got here and unfortunately got banged up pretty quickly.
The only other guy would be Noah Sewell with the concussion, right? So he's the other guy that missed the game.
Saw him in the building Friday. He was on the sideline Sunday. So that's a good sign for a guy with the concussion, but trying to jump to conclusions for guys that are in concussion protocol is way too dicey. I just say it's certainly a positive that you've seen him around. And
the other roster issue might be Jonathan Ford, who I think has played pretty well, but if he's been used twice off the practice squad,
he's been used 3 times. So he's
done. They got to keep him on the roster, right?
Right. I mean, they'll revert back to the practice squad, but if they want to use him in a game, they'd have to find a spot for him on the 53.
Yeah. All right, Brad, big picture. Looking at this team 4-2, coming off the victory they just came off of against a 1-6 Saints team. Is this a team that you think is going to contend for a playoff spot? Do you think that this is a team that is going to get better play from its quarterback? What do you think of this team 6 games in?
I think it's interesting, and yesterday's win, although it's against a Saints team in transition, was huge. Like, just look at the numbers from 2020 when the NFL expanded to the 14-team playoff format. 3-3 teams that have started the season 3-3 since 2020, 32.5% reached the postseason. Teams that begin 4-2, 73.5% make the postseason. So the difference between 4-2 for the Bears and 3-3 is pretty big. Now, last year's 4-2 Bears outfit is one of those 26.5% that had a nice start to the season and didn't make the playoffs. But they've got a chance. Let's see how they do in these next 6, and it's going to be interesting because you've got a trip through the rugged AFC North coming up with Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh looms right before Thanksgiving. It's an interesting stretch. The Giants have a poor record, but they've got some juice now with Jackson Dart at quarterback. Philadelphia on that Black Friday game, coaches generally talk about the schedule up until Thanksgiving is about getting yourself in a position to then battle for the playoffs. And at 4-2, the Bears, I think it's a worthy discussion. They've got to be better across the board. The quarterback's got to be better. They've got to be more consistent. But you guys had T.J. Edwards on this morning, and I don't think you can overstate what his return to health from that hamstring injury has meant to the defense in terms of really everything, but stopping the run, everybody being lined up in the right spot, the communication. It's been a huge boost for them across the board with him back in the mix.
Olin made a point with us this morning. He said the same thing yesterday in the post game that as much as you can argue that Caleb Williams didn't have a very good day, that the threat of the pass, be it Williams or Ben Johnson, changed the way that they played defensively. In other words, Staley had them with lighter boxes, which encouraged more running. One of the reasons they were able to run as successfully as they were is because they were trying to stop the pass over the run, which kind of makes sense given the way that game went. How will that be perceived outside of of other opponents. Will that change against the team like Baltimore? Will they be more challenging of Williams to beat them than than maybe the Saints were?
Yeah, I think the Saints probably felt like they'd been doing a decent job against the run lately, and New Orleans has been down a corner. They had another one go out in the game yesterday, so perhaps they were trying to protect against that a little bit. But I think the NFL is about trying to limit explosive plays, and Staley probably felt like the Bears had some players that could hit him for some big chunks, and he wanted to try to minimize that. And certainly, you could say in the passing game, they accomplished that goal. You had a nice pass to Kmet. You had the Luther Burden play. I think DJ Moore had a 26-yard play. There wasn't a lot in terms of explosive plays in the passing game, so objective achieved, but in the process, the Bears were just able to gut them on the ground. Bears need to keep running the ball, because if they can continue to run the ball with success, play action game is going to be there, and you know what? It says something, even though it's an inferior opponent, that they can go out and really control and for the most part dominate a game. When you're talking about the quarterback having those issues, that means you've been pretty good in a lot of other areas. Certainly, the takeaway thing being number one, but the improved run defense also a part of that as well.